Dear young people, today I want to tell you about two people and two situations you may encounter in your lives. The first one, let's call him Marcus, is a cardiologist. He earns $400,000 a year. He drives a $120,000 German SUV that he got through a lease, of course. He lives in a $1.2 million home in a neighborhood that leaves people's jaws dropping when they see it. His children go to private schools. On his vacations, his photos are carefully taken and curated for Instagram. Dear children, on paper, Marcus is the very picture of success. Now let me tell you about the second person. Her name is Dolores. She worked for 31 years as a school custodian at a public high school in a mid-sized city in Ohio. She drove the same 2003 Honda Civic for 20 years. She wore sensible shoes and brought her lunch from home every day. As she clipped coupons, she lived in a modest brick house that she paid off completely before she turned 50. Nobody ever asked Dolores for financial advice at a cocktail party. Dolores passed away at the age of 79. She left behind $2.3 million in investment assets. Her daughter's college tuition was never a problem. With the assets she left behind, her grandchildren won't have that problem either. Marcus, on the other hand, is technically insolvent at 58. After stripping away the car loan, the mortgage, the line of credit, and the credit cards, his net worth is negative $180,000. Before we go any further, I want you to understand this truth. Real wealth whispers, fake wealth screams. And most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, have been conditioned by society, by advertising, by social media, and by the people we grew up around, are to mistake that screaming for a signal. Today I'm going to tell you about the stealth wealth strategy. What I'm about to share is not a get-rich-quick plan. It's not built on deprivation or suffering either. I'm going to talk about a situation built with intention and psychological intelligence, aimed at stopping the performance of wealth and starting to build it instead. While compound interest speaks on your behalf, you stay silent, consistent, and free. Now put down whatever you're doing and stay with me. This video will change your relationship with money forever. Before we talk about tactics and numbers, I need to talk about your brain. Because there's a truth nobody in personal finance wants to admit. Most of your financial decisions are not rational. They're emotional, chemical, survival responses dressed up in spreadsheets. When you're under financial stress, checking your balance 3 times a day. With the car payment due Friday, but the paycheck not hitting until Monday, your body is releasing cortisol. This is a stress hormone, and we know that what cortisol does to your brain has extremely destructive effects when it comes to financial decision-making. Cortisol scatters your attention. It locks you onto the immediate threat, that $450 bill, that overdue notice, and makes the future look abstract, almost fictional. When cortisol is in control, your brain physically cannot prioritize your retirement account 30 years from now. That future version of yourself feels like a stranger. I call this survival mode. My children, the behaviors that feel most natural when you're in survival mode, spending for comfort, chasing status signals, and going into debt for things that make you feel temporarily okay, are exactly the behaviors that keep you trapped in survival mode. The science here is not as soft as you might think. A study published in the journal Science found that financial scarcity, just the cognitive burden of worrying about money, reduces your effective IQ by approximately 13 points. That's the same cognitive impairment as losing a full night of sleep. You are making decisions about your future from a position of neurological disadvantage. Growth mode is the opposite. When you have a financial buffer, when there is a cushion between you and catastrophe, your prefrontal cortex comes online. This is the part that can delay gratification, weigh long-term consequences, and think strategically. And this is precisely the part that built Dolores' $2.3 million. The stealth wealth strategy is, at its core, a strategy for migrating your nervous system from survival mode to growth mode. One decision at a time. $1 at a time. Now let's look at the landscape, because the economy we're navigating in 2026 has been specifically designed. Don't take that word lightly to descend on the money of those who aren't paying attention. Total U.S. consumer credit card debt surpassed $1.28 trillion in recent reports. The average American household carrying credit card debt holds a balance of approximately $8,000 at an average interest rate of 22%. Think about what that means. If you're trying to pay off $8,000 at 22% interest with minimum payments, you'll pay over $6,000 in interest before that balance is cleared. You didn't buy anything with that money. You paid a fee, call it the inattention tax. The average new car loan in the United States is now $726 per month. I'll say that again, $726 every single month to finance a vehicle that will lose 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. A new car loses approximately 60% of its value in the first 5 years. You are financing depreciation. You are borrowing money for something whose value you are aggressively eroding while you make payments on it. Here's a number that doesn't get nearly enough attention. The personal savings rate in America is running well below 5%. Meanwhile, the wealthiest 1% in this country, people with genuine generational security, save and invest between 20 and 40% of their income, consistently and with discipline, and regardless of market conditions. The gap between the struggling middle class and the quietly wealthy is not primarily an income gap. It's a behavior gap, a decision-making gap. At its core, a psychology gap. Now I want to talk to you about the real rules, not theory, rules. These are the operating principles of people who look ordinary from the outside, but are building empires from the inside. Before you buy anything over $50, I want you to run a simple calculation. Divide the price by how many times you realistically expect to use it. That will be your cost per use. A $300 coat you wear 200 times over 10 years costs $1.50 per wear. A $90 shirt you wear twice before it goes out of style costs $45 per wear. The cheap shirt is 45 times more expensive than that quality coat. This one rule will quietly revolutionize how you spend. The quietly wealthy don't compulsively buy cheap things. They deliberately buy excellent things and they use them until they're gone. If you have a family member or a trusted friend with a perfect credit score, a score above 750, a card with a long history and a low utilization rate, ask them to add you as an authorized user on that account. You don't need to receive the card. You don't need to use the account. Simply being listed as an authorized user causes that card's positive history to appear on your credit report. This is legal, it's common, and it can meaningfully improve your credit score within 30 to 60 days. Here's a concept I really want you to think about. The goal is not to look poor. The goal is to be indifferent to looking rich. These are completely different things. The quietly wealthy aren't performing poverty. They're simply not interested in performing wealth. They drive reliable, fully paid-off cars. They wear quality basics that don't signal status. They live in homes that are comfortable but not theatrical. They have redirected the energy, the money, and the mental bandwidth that other people spend on appearances and aimed all of it at their balance sheets. Now I want to put something uncomfortable in front of your eyes. It's uncomfortable, but you need to see it. Let's take that average car payment, $726 a month. I want to ask you a different question than the one you're used to asking. Instead of, can I afford this payment, ask, what else could have been done with this money? If you invested that $726 every month into a low-cost index fund tracking the S&P 500, and that fund returned an average of 8% per year, which is below the historical average of that index over the last 50 years, here is what would happen over time. After 10 years, approximately $133,000. After 20 years, approximately $427,000. After 30 years, approximately $1,080,000. $1 million. From a single car payment. This is not motivational math, this is compound interest arithmetic. That is the real cost of that car. Not $726 a month, $1,080,000 of future wealth, exchanged for the experience of driving a vehicle that is aggressively losing its value. Now let's talk about the coffee you spend money on every day without a second thought. I know everyone talks about the daily coffee. But stay with me and pay attention to what I'm saying. Because I want to make a different point than the usual one. $5 a day at Starbucks is $1,825 a year. Invested at 8% over 30 years, that money grows to approximately $224,000. But that's not my point. What I'm really trying to say is this, that $5 is not $5. Every spending decision you make is actually a decision about a much larger future sum. When you feel that not just intellectually, but in your bones, your relationship with small purchases changes permanently. The stealth wealth practitioner looks at price tags differently than everyone else. They don't see $726. They see $1,080,000 and a choice. Here comes the part that most financial content analysts skip entirely. And this, in my view, is the most important part. You cannot sustain a behavior that contradicts your identity. If at the core level you believe you are the kind of person who lives paycheck to paycheck, that money is something that belongs to you rather than something you direct, then no budget, no spreadsheet, no YouTube video can fix that. Because behavior will always drift back toward identity. It is impossible for you to sustain a behavior that conflicts with your identity. The transformation that changes everything is not financial, it's psychological. The moment you decide you are the type of person who builds, that is when the transformation begins. If you are the type who defers, the type who thinks not in months but in decades when that identity is in place, behaviors become almost automatic. Discipline doesn't feel like deprivation, it feels like alignment. I want to introduce a concept I call walking away money. By accumulating liquid assets, savings, investments, accessible capital, you gain the power to say no. No to a job that looks down on you. No to a relationship where you give more than you receive. No to a business deal that isn't right. No to a lifestyle that looks good from the outside but is quietly strangling your future. Walking away money is freedom. Not Instagram freedom. Real freedom. The ability to make choices. The ability to wait, the ability to walk away from something that doesn't serve you and not panic when you do. Most people never experience this. Not because they can't, but because they spend every dollar they earn on performing the life they think they're supposed to have. The car, the bag, the vacation, the renovation. And they arrive at their 60s with a closet full of things and a calendar packed with obligations they cannot escape. Dolores had walking away money. She had it by the time she turned 55. She didn't retire that year, she loved her work. But she stayed because she chose to, not because she had to. Dear children, that distinction is the whole game. Every dollar you put into savings is not just a dollar, it's an option. A vote cast on behalf of a future self who has choices. Who can pivot? Who can invest when an unexpected opportunity arises? Who can absorb a crisis without it becoming a catastrophe? Wealthy people are not just people who have more money, they are people who have more options. And options come not from consumption, but from accumulation. I want to share something I think about often. The ancient Stoics practiced something called memento mori. This practice is a meditation on death, not as a morbid exercise, but as a clarifying one. Because when you truly grasp that your time is finite, certain things stop mattering. The judgment of someone in a parking lot as you step out of your 10-year-old Honda. The quiet social pressure expecting you to play the part of your salary. The raised eyebrows at the company party when you haven't gone on vacation this year. None of these things matter. And those who understand this earliest, those who spend their most productive earning years, not staging success, but building it, those people end up free. I want to speak to you directly, because I respect your time and your intelligence. The goal is not to look rich. The goal is to be rich. These two things are not just different in most situations. In the economy we are living in right now, they are actively opposed to each other. Every dollar you spend performing wealth is a dollar that sets in motion a process of taking your freedom away. A dollar you cannot use to build it. Our cardiologist Marcus looks like he has everything. Every night when he goes to bed, he thinks about what will happen if patients slow down, if the practice loses a partner, or if the building's lease comes up for renewal, because he has no buffer, no options. With all his income, with all his symbols, he is trapped. But Dolores, who brought her lunch from home every single day for 31 years, who drove a car that made her colleagues cringe, who never posted a vacation photo because she was focused on quietly accumulating, she was free. She was free long before she retired. She claimed her freedom the day her account balance gave her options. That is the entire strategy. Look ordinary, build quietly. Let compound interest do the talking on your behalf. And one day, not dramatically, not on a stage, not with a caption, you will realize that you have crossed over from survival mode into something else entirely. Call it freedom. Call it optionality. Call it peace. Call it whatever you like, but never be trapped.